Micah Beutell, College Baseball Central. Also, It Just Means Less ACC podcast, a really fun podcast about the ACC. Micah, we're going to talk college baseball for the majority of this interview, but I wanted to start out because you are, very prominently, talking about the ACC all the time when it comes to other sports, and particularly football. And we are, we're football first. I mean, there's not, you see behind me, there's helmets and all. Your thoughts on the ACC and the future of the college football playoff? They and the Big 12 seem aligned on this 5+11, which now the SEC thinks is the best idea. What are your thoughts? Is the ACC taking the calculated risk, or how do you feel about this?
I'm kind of indifferent on it. 'Cause at the end of the day, I'm not a big 16 team kind of like in that kind of spot situation. But at the end of the day, I think that if you're the ACC, you're smart. You got to guarantee your spots. I mean, fair or not. I mean, as much as I want to think the ACC is not as far behind as the SEC, or to the SEC and the Big Ten, is some of the, I guess, national folks, or even just the perspective on, the internet would say is, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to play your cards right. So from the ACC standpoint, I mean, I don't hate that model. I think it guarantees you something. And in many years, I don't think the ACC is getting, too butthurt about teams being left out that maybe shouldn't have been. Because I do think at the end of the day, the ACC is still going to have two or three in that conversation every time. And I mean, call it what it is. I mean, there's a lot of talent. Obviously, it's being seen every year in the draft coming from the SEC and the Big Ten. So I don't think it's unfair as well to say that the SEC and the Big Ten might deserve a couple more spots in terms of just allowing it to be a free-for-all from those last 11 spots. So I'm a little sad from the mid-major standpoint, as someone that is obsessed with the FCS playoffs. I would like to see more for the group of five, but I also understand in the world where the FBS model is way more about money than the FCS model is, why this route would be taken.
Yeah, I think from everybody else's perspective, and look, for the Big 12, we talked about it here a lot. From the ACC, I know that you're sacrificing those guaranteed spots, and there's going to be years where both the Big 12 and the ACC may just get the champion in. That may happen. But I don't think that you can allow you just can't admit that you're publicly say we're second class. We've got middle seats. We don't get hot towels. We're fine with that. I don't think you can say that and then try and grow your conference. It's a risk. It's a big one. It might not work out the way they want it to, but I think that it's what they have to do, even though it's probably the one that, you're going to see the champion and then the three champions from the other leagues, and then the 13 teams are going to be from the Big Ten and SEC. That may happen, but at least when it does, they won't really have any place to run and hide on some of the egregious things that happen when those teams get skipped over. Like if a 10-2 Florida State that didn't play in the ACC championship game gets skipped over, or a 9-3 Duke gets skipped over by an 8-4 Mississippi State, what are we doing? Those things I think will be more exposed in that kind of 5+11 format.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And as someone that's a University of Virginia football fan, I'll never forget someone did one of the proposed models where, obviously the two, they basically got rid of the conference championship games and made the two teams from each conference play. Well, I remember when Virginia played in the ACC championship game and lost by 50 something to Clemson. As much as I would love to say that Virginia made the college football playoff that year, I don't think the 9-5 Virginia Cavaliers deserve a spot. So I think at the end of the day, right, if you're the ACC, I mean, you obviously don't want to, you'd like to have more guaranteed spots, but I agree with you. You have to A, not be willing to admit you're second class, but B, be able to prove that you're not second class. I mean, at the end of the day, again, I would raise hell if it's a 10-2 Florida State team left out. But, if it's an 8-4 Duke team per se, or even an 8-4 Florida State, probably don't deserve to be in an 8-4. Unless your schedule itself is great, because that's the nice thing about football is, you can kind of tailor your schedule a little bit more to be stronger than, maybe by not scheduling FCS teams or whatever route they choose to go to.
Yeah. All right, Micah, you are one of the most prolific college baseball writers out there. Really enjoyed your stuff. College Baseball Central, you've gone to a ton of ballparks this year. You have seen a lot of these teams, not only just by following them, wherever you've seen them in person. We are now to the super regionals. Which do you think is the best super regional as far as the most drama, and which one do you think is this one? Rubber stamp it. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best super regional comes down to either Florida State, Oregon State, or Coastal Carolina, Auburn for me. I think those two, just the way Auburn and Coastal have looked this year, they've kind of been the best kept secrets in the sport. I mean, Auburn obviously not talked about as the LSU's, Arkansas's, even Tennessee's and Texas's have been in the SEC. And on the flip side, no one's really given enough respect, I think, including myself, to Coastal Carolina and the gauntlet that is the top half of the Sun Belt. I mean, Southern Miss is a very good ball club. Troy had a very legitimate argument to be an at-large. And I mean, you saw what Texas State and some of those other teams could do when they played their best baseball. So I think for me, that those two are the ones I think will probably be the most closely contested. I don't know if there's a single regional or super regional, that I think is going to be a blowout. I just think that there are a couple I'm a little bit more hesitant on. There's only one super I picked a sweep on, and that was Louisville over Miami. I'm a known doubter in Miami's consistency. I think when they play their best baseball, like they did in Hattiesburg this past weekend, they could honestly win the College World Series with what they have in that lineup with Daniel Cuvée and Dorian Gonzalez. But on the flip side, they have their back half of their lineup is hitting under 280. So it's kind of a hit and miss kind of thing for Miami. So that one's kind of one I'm circling as maybe has a chance to be a little rough. And I think there is a world where that Murray State Duke one's not very good. If because both those teams kind of feel not like Cinderellas, but Duke, again, a very quietly good ACC team this year, but not necessarily I don't think anyone on our ACC team thought that this would be the year Duke hosts a super regional. And here we are. So I think that one, with the factor in that, I do think Murray State's a very good ball club, but it is very hard to replicate what you did a week ago in Oxford. But again, if anyone could do it, I think it's that offense at Murray State, because that's the one thing. Murray State can hit any pitching staff in the country. I think if they even went toe-to-toe with some of these best rotations, the UNCs, the Florida States, the LSUs, they're going to score. I just don't know if they have the arms to compete. And Duke has been known to play very high-scoring games in their own ballpark comparatively when they're on the road. So that one has the potential, in my opinion, to potentially be ugly if the Cinderella has worn off a little bit on Murray State.
Do you think the ACC, and I may be asking the wrong guy here, I mean, it just means less, but the ACC got 5 teams in the Supers, the SEC got 4, and 2 of those by the hair of their chinny chin chin, for sure. Was the ACC a little underrated because the SEC was so deep this year? I'm not saying the SEC was overrated. Obviously, Vandy and Texas in particular, tripped over their own feet this last weekend. But Texas had a tough regional. Vandy Vandy just caught a team at the wrong time. I don't think it lessens what they did in the regular season, but the ACC I thought was a little bit slept on overall as a conference week in and week out.
Yeah, I think the ACC, and I'm obviously got the Texas Tech helmet behind you, the Big 12 too. I think both those conferences just didn't get enough respect. I mean, as much as I'm very pro ACC and I thought Georgia Tech should have host, I was just as ticked off that TCU didn't get a host or Arizona didn't get the host. I mean, you're seeing it right now. I mean, obviously TCU did not play well out in Corvallis, but what Arizona is continuing to do, staying hot. West Virginia kind of doing what they did at that Clemson Super. I mean, there needs to be more of a conversation with that, in terms of just how dominant they really seem to be. I mean, they played a really bad game against Kentucky and still battled back to win that one to clinch that regional championship. So, I think it's, again, the SEC, I've never ran from it. I'm an ACC guy through and through, but it would be silly for me to say the SEC is still not the standard of college baseball. I mean, they win the national title almost every year. The last time the national title was won by an ACC team was 2015 with Virginia, 2016 Coastal. So it's been a minute since it's been someone outside the SEC. So until then, right, there's no, dethroning of the SEC, but this does show you that the SEC wasn't far and above, especially because, again, the ACC and the SEC head-to-head in the regular season, the SEC, I think, was 12-10 or something. It was like a 2-game gap. So it wasn't like they dominated the ACC in what everyone deemed was just a large, giant gap between the two conferences. I think that if you throw Virginia in the tournament or Notre Dame in the tournament, I think they could have potentially made some noise just like Miami did. And I think you can say the same thing with some of those Big 12. I mean, Baylor was one of those teams that didn't have the resume to make an argument, but I think if Baylor would have gotten in, they'd have been a very tough out for anybody who got them as a 3 seed in their regional. So I think it was a very underrated conference as a whole.
Yeah, Baylor just didn't know how to deal with success. Like that was their thing. I think they weren't mature enough to they were finally doing some good things, and then they couldn't hold it. They just couldn't hold it. But all right, you mentioned that Florida State and Oregon State regional. Micah, I am a very proud 2002 graduate of Florida State University. Florida State's baseball. Look, it's Shakespearean tragedy at this point. They are. And it's not even there's not even an argument you can make in this sport, college baseball, for the greatest team that's never won one. It's them. It's them. The all-time winningest coach is their coach. He went there all the time. It was every other year, essentially, it felt like of his very long career. I know it wasn't that, but all the time you look up at Mike Martin's in Omaha. He invented 2 and Q. He invented the slogan. So this is a situation, though, when you look across the super regionals with some of those top teams getting knocked out. Now, granted, North Carolina is still there, who was a bee in FSU's bonnet this year. They only beat them once, and all the times they played them. Is this a team, if they can get through a very good Oregon State this week, that can make similar and more noise than they made in Omaha last year in Link Jarrett year 2? I lost it.
Yeah, you're muted.
You're muted. There we go. No, lost you again.
There we go. We got it now.
Okay.
Sorry, I have a cat that likes to meow for attention. So when I'm not talking, I try to mute myself so that you don't get too much background meows.
Yeah.
But that said, yes. I mean, last year they ran into the buzzsaw that was Tennessee, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he swung. Let's call it what it is. I genuinely think if they call that a swing, I think Florida State wins the national title. I genuinely believe that's how cursed I think your program at Florida State is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because the whole dynamic changes. I didn't think that pairing of 4, I didn't think anyone would come out of the losers bracket. That's why I'm a University of Virginia fan. I was yeah, we're done for at this point. Say goodbye when we dropped to North Carolina in game 1. So that one was obviously tough. And that's the other thing, for Florida State right now, is they're looking at the winner of Louisville and Miami in their first game, if I'm not. Yeah. So they're looking at that Louisville-Miami winner. I think if you're Florida State, if you were to get past that, you feel pretty good about that matchup, especially when it comes to your pitching staff and where it's set up. And again, Florida State has question marks with their bullpen, but their starting rotation has 0 question marks right now between Vellini, between Mendez, and obviously Jamie Arnold. That is a 1-2-3 that can easily win them a national championship if given the opportunity. So I think they're set up very well in that situation. And again, the bottom half of their 4 pairing there to play on that first day is going to be a little bit tough, but it's not anything that I'm overly concerned about with Florida State. So I think, again, when you look at it that way, and there's a world where their pairing is 3 ACC and then Coastal Carolina and or Auburn. I mean, I think if you're Florida State, you would love to see teams you've either played against already this year or at least seen some film on, because you've probably watched film of Florida State versus Miami versus somebody, Louisville versus somebody, North Carolina versus somebody. So it's something that you're going to be familiar with. So I think from that standpoint, for Florida State, they have a realistic chance. And that's the nice thing about the sport this year. There's so much parity. I mean, we could have on the other side of the bracket 2 mid-majors facing off on the first game on the Saturday at 1:00 between if Murray State and UTSA advance. Which, if you'd have told me Murray State and UTSA were going to be playing in a College World Series head-to-head in 2025, 3 years ago, I'd have looked at you and said, "What are you on?" and how? Well, how are you envisioning this? But this is a reality we're potentially looking at. So,
Tennessee and Arkansas is going to be a very good one. Obviously, Arkansas is a very good team. Tennessee, the defending champs, but they don't have their lineup. I mean, they don't have their lineup, particularly Christian Moore, who did swing. But, and again, I knew it. I was on vacation. I knew it. I knew when they called him, well, he's going to get a hit now. He's essentially hitting 900 for the postseason. It's unbelievable. He's like Ohtani and Babe Ruth and, Hank Aaron rolled into one in every single at bat. But this Tennessee, did they just lose too much off of last year's squad. And this is a team that's obviously, with their great coach and the passion they have for the program. I was driving through Knoxville on a Friday afternoon with a 1:00 start, and it was packed out. So they're not going anywhere, but are they maybe not equipped to repeat?
I mean, it's going to be tough, obviously, for them to be able to do so. Just in general, even if they had necessarily some of the question marks solved that they thought they would. But I think for me, the biggest thing when it comes to Tennessee is just their starting rotation right now is just so wishy-washy. I mean, after Liam Doyle, you really don't feel great moving forward. And, it took Liam Doyle coming out of the bullpen. I still think they win that game if he doesn't, but they felt like they needed to go to Liam Doyle to finish off Wake Forest, a Wake Forest team, by the way, that had a lot of issues as well with their pitching staff. So, I just think that when it comes down to it, I don't know if I trust Tennessee's arms to be able to battle through it. And the worst part is, again, they are paired in a very tough spot because realistically, obviously, they're going to have to go win 2 in Fayetteville, something they haven't done in 20 years. They haven't won a series there in a hot minute. So they're going to have to do that, get over that hump with a very lethal pitching rotation that Arkansas has going forward. And obviously, I'm sure it's going to be a very calm, no fights, no ejections, no bad mouthing, no bat flipping in that series at all. I'm sure it's going to be super cordial there in Fayetteville. But then if they advance, there's a very good chance they're facing LSU in the nightcap game on Saturday evening in the first game of their College World Series appearance in 2025. And that's going to be a tough one too, because no matter who you're facing from LSU, you're going to be in for a pitcher's duel. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Tennessee can get, Marcus Phillips, let's say, to kind of hone in to kind of what he was doing earlier in the year against, let's just call it what it is, lesser competition. Mm-hmm. So if there's any coach I think can get his players to play their best, it's Tony Vitello. And it'd be silly for me to say that Tennessee is not still one of the top half of the remaining super regional teams in terms of talent. So makes it a very realistic opportunity. But again, they are missing. I think they are one thing they've been missing all year is that real glue guy, like that Christian Moore was last year and Bargo was, and go down the list over the last few years for Tennessee. They've had those guys that just kind of felt like when push came to shove, again, Christian Moore gets second life. What does he do? Gets a hit, and next thing the game changes. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Tennessee has that this year.
Yeah. I wonder about that. Micah, I've really enjoyed having you on. We got to get you on more, especially in football season, when the propagandists start talking. Look, we're from Big 12 country. You're from ACC country. We need to form some sort of alliance to work through the nonsense. But certainly enjoyed finally getting to meet you and talk to you. And are you going anywhere this weekend?
I am. I'm actually returning to AC country after moving to Texas this past fall. So yeah. I'm taking tomorrow off. Technically tomorrow will be a travel day, but I will be at the Louisville-Miami game on Saturday. And then I'm hoping there's a world where North Carolina and Arizona are playing a game 3, because I will be at the Duke game on Sunday against Murray State, with the hopes that they will actually stagger those start times so I can get 2 different super regionals in one day. But if not, then UNC would fall off the chopping block, because I've been to the Bosch so many times. And I was at their super regional last year. So not saying I don't need to see a super regional in Chapel Hill, but I've seen it before, where obviously this is the first time a super regional has made an appearance in Durham. So I will be for sure Duke Murray State, and then I will be catching a game as well of the Louisville-Miami series. So very excited to be back in the ACC world.
Micah Beutell, College Baseball Central, and the podcast, It Just Means Less, ACC. Love it, Micah. Talk to you soon, man.
Absolutely.
This is 365 Sports.